Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Byju's Exam Prep IAS. This is Shyam Kagod here. Now, before I start the discussion, if there is no issue with the sound, please give me a thumbs up. Done. Let's start. So, this is a webinar. The coverage will be mains-based current affairs discussion for GS paper 3. We'll be covering certain very important areas which have been discussed in the last 1 month from the Indian economy part. Now, before I take up the articles and start discussing, here's a very important announcement for all of you. If you're yet to start writing the PTS papers, preliminary test series papers, then please do start now. We have a list or a set of 36 tests wherein 19 sectional test papers will be provided and 9 GS paper full length test series will be provided, or it is available, as well as 8 CSAT full length test is available to you people. These tests will go live every Sunday 9:30 a.m. and Wednesday evening 8 p.m. We provide all India ranking. Now, if you are in a city where Byju's center, IAS center is there, such as let's say New Delhi, or for that matter Bangalore, Chennai, etc., you can walk into the center as well to write these particular test papers. Right, so please make the best use of these particular papers, and let's be confident regarding appearing for the UPSC examinations. Done. Now, what is the list of the topics? Which topics I'll be covering in today's webinar discussion? First and foremost, as far as I'm concerned, one of the very important areas which is being discussed almost every week in the current affairs, that is the concept of food inflation in India. And there's a specific reason why I've taken this topic. I'll show you the statement. Just give me some time. After we cover this, we'll take up one more article from the Kurukshetra magazine, that is the post office services at doorstep. Right, again, sir, how can you connect it to current affairs? Because it has appeared in Kurukshetra, that is one point. And second point is, they discuss certain very important measures, or let's say the steps that have been taken in order to promote financial inclusion through the post offices. So we'll have a discussion regarding that. After that, any issues in the urban cooperative banks, that is UCB in crisis. This is the article that I've picked up from Economic and Political Weekly. Then the critical evaluation of one of the very important areas of the 15th Finance Commission, central government providing grants to local bodies, a critic of the 15th FC, again from EPW, Economic and Political Weekly. And finally, one more article from the Kurukshetra magazine for the month of December, e-governance. What kind of reforms has the government of India implemented to promote tourism, right? Tourism in India. So these are the 5 very important areas that I'll be discussing today. Let's start the discussion. The first very important article that, or let's say the topic that we'll be discussing, is food inflation in India. Now, some of you are asking, sir, why? Why did you take up food inflation? This is precisely the reason. One of the members of Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, Poonam Gupta, has given a very interesting statement. The statement is simple: monetary policy has been a hostage to vegetable prices. I repeat, please remember the statement can be straightforward asked in the UPSC means. Monetary policy in recent times has been held hostage by vegetable prices in the domestic market. Now, what is this basic idea that we need to understand? In recent times, inflation rate has been higher in India. I'm pretty sure all of you will agree with me when I say inflation rate has been on a higher side. Sir, why are you saying it is on a higher side? If you look at the calendar year, of course, I'm talking about 2022. If you look at the calendar year, starting from the month of January till the month of October, the inflation rate, that is retail inflation, focus on the inflation, retail inflation or CPI, consumer price index. The consumer price index from the month of January till the end of the October, the recorded inflation rate has been more than 6%. It has been seen only in the month of November as well as December that the inflation rate, retail inflation again, has been below 6%. Now, why this 6% is important? 6% is important for a very simple reason. RBI is supposed to maintain inflation rate at 4%. And whenever inflation goes up above 4%, obviously RBI has to take certain measures. But till what level the flexibility is allowed for RBI? Actual rate of inflation allowed is 4%, but it is allowed to, right, relax the inflation rate up to a maximum of 6%. If it crosses more than 6%, or if it falls below 2%, then it simply means there is something fundamentally wrong with the economy. Inflation is very high or very low. RBI doesn't have any option but to take certain measures. Right, sir, what do you mean by measures here? In the last couple of months, if you have seen, specifically after the month of April, what has the Reserve Bank of India done? Consecutively or successively, Reserve Bank of India has kept on increasing the interest rates. And basically, it has started increasing interest rate in order to control inflation in the market. The reason is simple. Inflation rate for 10 successive months in the calendar year of 2022 has been holding more than 6%. Now, what is the reason? If you basically dissect it, what is the reason? One of the very important reasons why inflation rate has been higher in India is because of food inflation. Remember the term. One of the very important contributors of the retail's inflation has been the food inflation. Now, some of you will ask me, sir, is it only the food inflation that is contributing to inflation? Of course, no. Apart from food inflation, right, I hope you remember the yesterday's discussion, that is a PTS paper discussion. There was one more concept of imported inflation. Rupee depreciating, imports becoming very costlier, etc., etc. Many contributors are there. But one of the very important contributors has been the food prices in the domestic market. And being concerned over the food inflation contributing to inflation in the domestic market, Government of India tried to impose restrictions, reduce exports of certain agriculture outputs or agriculture commodities such as sugar, such as rice, etc., etc., etc. Now, that is the precise reason why the member of PMEAC, many of you are asking the long form of PMEAC, Pradhan Mantri Economic Advisory Council, Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. Right, so understand the logic here. Looking at this, one of the members of the PMEAC stated that monetary policy in the recent times has been held hostage because of vegetable prices. And understand the logic here. Whenever you talk about the monetary policy, what is the idea of monetary policy? Reserve Bank of India will use certain tools either to increase or decrease the money supply in the economy. But think of it and answer to my question now. Do you think Reserve Bank of India has a very effective tools in order to control supply side inflation? Supply side inflation or a cost push inflation? I'll repeat it again. Think of it. Do you think Reserve Bank of India has very good tools in order to control cost push inflation or supply side inflation? Answer is simply no. RBI doesn't have the tools, because if you talk about repo rate, reverse repo rate, or even marginal variation, right, or targeting of specific sectors, PSL, etc., all these will help RBI in controlling the demand. But when you see that the market prices of vegetables, market prices of pulses, market prices of other food grains going upwards, that contributing to inflation, and imagine the inflation rate is more than 6%. Do you think RBI has any way out except increasing the interest rates? Right? RBI doesn't have any control over it. RBI has to increase interest rates so that the inflation will be cooled down. But the problem here is, do you think RBI is effective enough to control the food inflation? Answer is simply no. That is the precise reason. Look at the statement. Look at the statement, you will understand why the expert is saying monetary policy is being held hostage by vegetable prices. Now, before going forward, right, explaining to you what is the weightage, etc., etc., have a look at this. Whenever you talk about CPI, I'll be focused on CPI here, right, not about WPI, focused on CPI, that is a retail inflation. Whenever you talk about CPI, the most important component within the CPI, the one which has the highest weightage, is food and beverages. The food and beverages, how much? 47%, but generally it is around 46%. Right, so highest weightage has been given for food and beverages. But if you look at the food and beverages, all the components are not basically the food grains. All the components are not vegetables. There are multiple components within the food and beverages. The breakup or the components within the food and beverages is given on the right side table. And have a look at this. The table should be very clear to you. Don't by heart the table. Some of you are asking, sir, should I by heart the table? Absolutely no. Focus on the important components within the food and beverages. That is, one, cereals. Focus on the cereals. Second, focus on milk products. Third, focus on vegetables. And the fourth one, right, focus on prepared meals, snacks and sweets. Sir, why should we focus only on these? For a simple reason, the weightages are very, very high. The food and beverages has a weightage of around 46%. Out of that, if you take vegetables, it has a weightage of more than 6%. If you take cereals and products, it has a weightage of around 10%. If you take milk products, it has a weightage almost nearer to 7%. So is it okay if I say, just understand, is it okay if I say, if the prices of the milk, prices of rice, wheat, prices of vegetables such as nimbu goes up, you will definitely feel the hit in terms of rising CPI. I hope you understand my statement. If the price of rice, wheat, price of nimbu, which actually was very, very high couple of months ago, prices of let's say milk, etc. go up, you will generally see the rising CPI. And that is exactly what has happened in the domestic market. I'll show you one more graph here. I'll come back to this, don't worry. Just have a look at the graph here. Should you remember the graph? Absolutely no. Just have a glimpse at the graph. What the graph is representing is simple. One line represents the overall inflation in the domestic market. Right? The first line is representing overall inflation, that is CPI rate. And what you will observe, yes, there is a fluctuation in the CPI, but the fluctuation is not very high. In the sense, when I say not very high, compare it with another line, the maroon color line, which is there in the same graph. Can you see that the second line has a lot of fluctuations compared to, let's say, the green color line, blue color line. The other line, maroon color line, second line has a lot of fluctuations. What does it represent? This maroon line represents vegetable inflation. Simple. The maroon line represents the vegetable inflation, whereas the sky blue line or the blue line represents overall inflation, which means the inflation rate, that is a fluctuation in the price level of vegetables, has been much higher. How much higher? Right? Just look at the data, you will realize it. At one point of the time, in the last 2.5 years, at one point of time, the vegetable prices experienced deflation. There was a drop in the vegetable prices. And at the other point of time, the vegetable prices, the price rise was more than 60%. It was more than 60% at one point of time and minus 20% in another point of time, which means vegetables price levels are fluctuating a lot more higher level compared to the overall inflation rate. Now you will definitely have this question, sir, why it is happening? Agreed. CPI is fluctuating, food price levels are fluctuating, understood. But why? What is the reason? Right? Why there is this kind of a fluctuation in the price levels of food grains or let's say vegetables in the domestic market? These are some of the very important reasons or the causes. First one, cobweb phenomenon. Please remember this, cobweb phenomenon. Right? What is this idea of a cobweb cycle, cobweb phase or phenomenon? Doesn't matter. First and foremost, the concept of cobweb phenomenon or cobweb cycle was given by an economist, Nicholas Calder. Remember the name, can be asked by UPSC. The concept of cobweb phenomenon or cobweb cycle was given by Nicholas Kaldor, an Hungarian economist. But what is the basic idea of a cobweb phenomenon? During a particular phase, price levels are very high. In the following season, the price levels will be very low. I'll give you an example, don't worry. Cobweb phenomenon simply means cyclically prices are going up, prices are going down, going up, going down. This movement, or let's say this cyclic movement of prices going up, going down, it is called as a cobweb phenomenon. Any doubts in understanding the terminology? Let me know. The concept is simple. Cobweb phenomenon, right? Again, don't look into, sir, meaning bata do, that, this, why cobweb only, etc. Don't worry. Focus on the simplest concepts. Right? Don't complicate. Don't do PhD on all of this. Right? Just understand the basics here. Right? What is the idea? In certain months, the prices will be very high. After that, prices will drop. After that, again, the prices will rise up. After that, prices will again drop. Can I call this as cyclicality? Cyclicality means, right, basically, right, again and again, the same thing is happening. Going up, falling down, going up, falling down, right? Basic repetition. This is called as a cobweb cycle or a cobweb phenomenon. Now the question arises, why, sir? Simple. Let's say in one season, the prices of certain agriculture commodities are very high. They rise up. Now you'll ask me, sir, why? Tell me why the prices are going up. Let's say, understand this, let's say there is no sufficient monsoon rainfall. And if you do not receive sufficient monsoon rainfall, what do you think will happen to supply? Supply will come down. And when the supply will come down, what do you think will happen to market prices? Market prices automatically will go up. Now follow the next sequence. When the market prices of these commodities will go up, I'm a farmer, you're also a farmer, you look at it and say, okay, market prices are higher, I want to cultivate this, I want to sell it, I want to earn more. So what all of us will do? We will cultivate this crop. Now when we cultivate this crop, now in the next season, you tell me how much will be the production and supply. Do you think production and supply will be lower or higher? Right? Obviously the production and supply has increased now. When the production and supply has increased, now what will happen to market prices? The market prices will drop. Market prices will become lower. Now I am also not earning sufficient revenue. You also did not earn sufficient revenue. What will happen in the next cycle now? Next cycle we will realize, okay, we are not earning sufficient amount of money. We will reduce the cultivation. We will reduce the supply. And when you reduce the cultivation and supply, now in the market what will happen? Supply becomes low. Prices will go up. Now again the same cycle will continue. Agreed? Right? So basically in the concept of cobweb phenomenon, because of the supply side factors, the higher revenue potential or the greed of the producers, etc., cyclically production will go up, go down. As a result of this, prices will go up and go down. Right? This is basically called as a cobweb phenomenon. Sir, anywhere, any examples of cobweb phenomenon in agriculture sector? The best example is onion. The best example is tomatoes, right, etc. So this is one of the reasons why you generally see fluctuating or higher and lower prices in agriculture sector. Second one, rupee depreciation. Right, I'll club the second as well as the third one here. Understand this. Don't say both are one and the same. I'll explain it. Follow this carefully. Second one is rupee depreciation. Yesterday also we have discussed this. In the last 1 year, rupee has depreciated against the dollar by more than 10%. Now have a look at this. When the rupee depreciates, what do you think will happen to the imports? India imports a lot of agriculture commodities. What do you think will happen to the imports? Automatically, the imports prices will rise up. The cost of the imports will rise up. Now some of you will simply say, sir, what if I don't import agriculture commodities? Right? I'll stop the imports. Even then, will it contribute to inflation? Of course, yes. How is that possible? What about, let's say, the machinery that you import, which is to be used in the agriculture sector? You use, let's say, insecticides, which is imported into India. You use petrol and diesel to move the goods to the market. It is imported. So there are multiple reasons, right, because of which rupee depreciation can contribute to higher food prices, higher, right, food inflation in the domestic market. That is the second reason. Third, higher cost of imports. Now understand the difference here. In case of second one, I said rupee depreciates. As a result of this, import will become costlier. And in the third case, what if the supply of this commodity in the international market automatically goes down, right, because of the pandemic or because of Russia and Ukraine war, etc. The supply of the commodity automatically goes down. And when the supply of the commodity goes down, what will happen to the market price of the commodity in the international market? Market price will automatically go up. And if you import it, obviously the price of these commodities, or the, let's say, the imported price would be much higher. That will also contribute, right, to inflation in the domestic market. Next one, issues related to rainfall, very much applicable in the current situation. Issues related to rainfall. Generally, the fact is simple. I'm pretty sure all of you have come across this in your geography lectures. That is, a large chunk of cultivation that is done, we are directly dependent on monsoon rainfall. I hope you understand. We are directly dependent on monsoon rainfall. And because we are directly dependent on the monsoon rainfall, if there is excess rainfall, that is a problem for us. If there is a lower rainfall, that is also a problem for us. And overall India, let's assume overall India, we received good amount of rainfall, not excess. We received good amount of rainfall, normal rainfall. But what if the rainfall that has occurred in certain rice cultivation states is lower? I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. In other regions, right, you have received more rainfall. In the rice cultivating states, you receive lesser rainfall. Don't you think that is also a problem for the agriculture sector, because the production will come down and the supply to the market automatically will come down? Sir, why are you discussing all of this? Because in the current year, in the current cultivation year, the cultivation of rice has been affected. The reason is simple. The monsoon that we have received in the recent times, specifically in the rice cultivation areas, the monsoon has been lower. For example, UP. The best example for rice cultivation states is UP, Bihar, West Bengal, Odisha, etc. So these are some of the very important states in terms of rice cultivation. So if the monsoon that happens, rainfall that happens in these states is lower, production would be lower, supply would be lower. And that is the reason why Government of India was targeting the rice exports from India. Right, I'm pretty sure I've come across the term broken rice exports. Because the cultivation was lower, Government of India said, no, right, I want to basically control the food inflation in the domestic market. I do not want to end up exporting more and, right, causing problems in the domestic market. And finally, one more traditional issue is the idea for hoarding. Hoarding means storing above permissible level. Storage done above permissible level. That concept is simple here. Imagine I'm a middleman. You are the consumer in the market. I will purchase a food grain from the farmer. I will store more, supply lesser to the market. Simple. I will store more and supply lesser to the market. Now simple, because the demand is there, supply is lesser, right? The market prices automatically will start going upwards, causing inflation, right? Contributing to inflation. So these are some of the very important reasons which have been causing food inflation in the domestic market in recent times. Some of you are saying, sir, there could be certain demand side factors also. My dear, yes, right? In certain situations, there could be demand side factors which are causing inflation. But what are the general demand side factors? Right? Understand this. What are the general demand side factors which will contribute to food inflation? Your income should be increasing. You tell me in the last 2 years, do you think people, their incomes, that is the earnings are done by the people, have increased, shot through the roof because of pandemic? Obviously no, right? So that is a precise reason in recent times. Okay, in recent times, these are some of the reasons which have caused food inflation in the domestic market. Now, right, I'll give you certain data here. Please do not by heart the data, just understand what has happened to cultivation area. Right, in the month of September, or till the month of September, what has happened to the cultivation area for major food crops in the domestic market? You will see that some of the food crops, the area under the cultivation has been reduced. Why? I've told you already, because of the cobweb phenomenon, because of the monsoon issue, etc. Some of these, right, the major crops, the area under cultivation has actually come down. And look at the concept of rice production in the domestic market. You will realize that compared to 21 and 22, the rice cultivation in the domestic market has actually come down, right? Which means the supply would be lower. And that is the precise reason why Government of India was worried about food inflation in the domestic market, trying to control the exports from the domestic market. Done? Okay. Now, if the food inflation is higher, ultimately everything boils down to this. If the food inflation is higher, what is the problem then? What is the issue? Let it be higher. These are the issues. First thing, overall inflation rate will go up. All of you will agree? Generally, if the food inflation is higher, overall inflation rate in the domestic market, CPI, will go up. And if the CPI goes up, don't you think RBI will be forced? RBI will be forced to change the interest rates. Now, on one side, food inflation is going up, and on the other hand, we want the market to recover. We want Indian economy to grow at a faster pace. If RBI increases the interest rate, do you think it will promote or it will curtail growth? I hope you understand this. If RBI starts to increase interest rate because it doesn't have any option, don't you think that will limit the growth that is possible or curtail the growth that is possible in the market? So that is one problem with high food inflation. Second, what about the food security issue? You will purchase food grains from the market. You purchase milk on daily basis. You purchase vegetables from the market. So do I. Now, if there is a very high food inflation rate, don't you think that will affect your consumption? That will affect my consumption. But more importantly, if you've read the newspapers, you will realize that lot of population in India is still poor. India houses highest number of poor people in the international market or in the international arena as such. Now, with such a huge amount of population which is still poor, if the food prices are increasing, don't you think that will affect the food security of the people? Right? Some of you are saying, but sir, PDS is there. My dear, under PDS, what do you get? I hope you understand this. What do you get under PDS? Rice, you get wheat, you get coarse grains. Will you get, let's say, milk? Will you get cooking oil? Will you get pulses, etc.? So just think of it. Just think of it. So there is a definite angle of, right, basically the food security issue. Next one, government may be forced to curtail. Curtail means control or reduce a trade. Simple. Government might be now forced to control a trade here. Why? Just look at this. India exports rice to more than 150 countries. I hope you understand this. India exports more than rice to more than 150 countries. Now, if Government of India is concerned about inflation in the domestic market, don't you think the priority will be to contain inflation rather than promoting exports? Now, some of you will say, yes, sir, very good. Focus should be on the domestic market. But here is the next problem. You will curtail, you will reduce the exports of these commodities to the international market. Simple question. What will happen to dollar inflow? What do you think will happen to dollar inflow into the domestic market? Dollar inflow will go down. Do you think that is feasible in the current situation? That's a problem. What do you think will happen to trade deficit? What do you think will happen to finally the current account deficit? right? Don't you think trade deficit will widen? Current account deficit will widen. That is a problem. So on one side, in order to control inflation, you want to reduce exports, control exports. But on the other hand, if you do that, the trade deficit will widen, dollar inflow will come down, your forex reserves are depleting, your current account deficit is widening, so is the trade deficit. That is the problem here. That is the biggest problem. Fourth one, issues with RBI forecast of inflation. If you read generally, RBI will come out with a forecast of inflation. I'll give a very simple example. In the month of December, RBI came out with a document and stated in the next 6 months what could be the rate of inflation. I hope you understand. In the next 6 months, what could be the inflation rate? That estimate forecast is given by RBI. And please understand that forecast has got very, very good value in the market. What do you mean by that? If RBI says inflation is going to go up, imagine you are the investor in the market. Just think of it. If RBI says inflation in the next 6 months will be more than 8%, will you be happy with, let's say, 3% rate of interest on your investment? Will you be happy with 4% rate of interest? Obviously no, because you are concerned about inflation rate. You are the investor in government bonds. Would you want to earn more and more yield rate? Of course, yes. You want to keep deposits in the banking sector. Would you want to earn more interest there? Of course, yes, because the inflation has to be considered. That is the reason the forecast of RBI is very important. But if there is so much of volatility, uncertainty regarding food prices, don't you think RBI's forecast will not be up to the point? In the sense, what is the forecast number compared to actual number, there will be a huge deviation between both of them. Now, will you have more confidence or lesser confidence on the ability of RBI? Automatically, right, the confidence that you have on the functioning of RBI automatically will take a hit here. So that is one more problem. It will have an influence over the RBI forecast. And finally, subsidy burden for the government. I'll connect it to current affairs. Understand this. There is an issue of subsidy burden. What is this subsidy burden here? Simple. Let me explain. All of you will agree when I say we import a lot of fertilizers. Done? All of you will agree, right? When I say we import a lot of fertilizers. Now the problem is, when we import fertilizers, what if the price of the gas in the international market goes up? The price of raw material used to manufacture fertilizer goes up. Or what if the market price of the fertilizer itself goes up? Do you think government will import the fertilizer, sell it at higher prices to the farmer? Right? Have you anywhere in your preparation you have come across the term where government says sell the fertilizer at a higher price because the imports have become costly? Of course, the answer will be no. You take either urea or you take diammonium phosphate or complexes such as NPKs, etc. Whatever combination you want to take, government will always provide subsidies for it. But if the cost of the imports is going up and the fertilizer still is being sold at the same price to the farmer, what does it mean? It simply means the subsidy burden on the government will be very, very high. Right? So that is one more issue with higher food inflation. Done. So these are some of the issues with very, very high rate of food inflation. Please be very careful. Now, what measures have been taken by the government in order to contain inflation, specifically food inflation in the market? One, exports are being contained. Contained in the sense, in some of the cases, government says no exports allowed. In some cases, take permission and we will allow you to export up to certain limit. In certain cases, high rate of taxation on the imports. High rate of taxation on the exports. Right, done? I'll repeat it again. On exports, one, we are abolishing exports in some of the commodities. Second, we are saying above this quantity, we will not allow exports. And third, if you want to export, we will impose a higher taxation, customs duties on the commodities. We are trying to contain the exports. Next, imports are being promoted. I'll give you a simple example. we have signed and we are going to sign long-term supply agreements of fertilizers with many countries. For example, Malaysia, sorry, for example, Egypt, right? For example, many African countries. We are signing long-term supply agreements for pulses with many African countries, for supply of fertilizers with many African countries. We have signed long-term supply agreements of, right, let's say even vegetable oils into India, so that we will be able to contain food inflation and control overall inflation. Done. So imports are being promoted. Higher fertilizer subsidy has been provided by the government in order to contain food inflation. Right? Understand this. Don't say, sir, you have written there also, you have written here also. Logic is simple. If you are a farmer, you will purchase fertilizer at a higher cost. Market prices should be higher, causing inflation. I hope you understand. Right? You are a farmer. Now you will purchase fertilizer at a higher price. What will happen to market prices? Market prices automatically should increase. That will cause inflation, food inflation. But if Government of India ensures that the subsidy will be increased and you will be able to purchase fertilizer at the same price, now you will not increase the market price of the commodity. So higher fertilizer subsidy has been provided by the government. Release of stocks in the open market, that is authorities such as Food Corporation of India, generally they will take certain stocks and sell them in the open market. They'll simply sell it to traders in the market so that the supply of the commodities will increase and the market prices will cool down. Okay, next one, ECA, Essential Commodities Act. Because there is a hoarding activity, okay, because there is a hoarding activity, in order to contain the hoarding activity, government has introduced Essential Commodities Act. Many of the times certain commodities are listed under the essential commodities. Now what is the logic here? Government will decide how much you are allowed to store. If you store beyond that limit, government can punish you. So storage limits can be imposed using the act such as Essential Commodities Act. Done? Right. So these are some of the very important measures which Government of India has taken in order to contain food inflation. Now what is the way forward now? What is the way forward? One, promote food processing. Important, please remember this. Government has to promote further food processing. Even today they are promoting it. Right? I'm not saying they do not do that. I'm saying promote further food processing. Right? Why? If you process the food, right, let's say there is a higher production, you will process it, store it. Let's say after 2 months the supply is lesser, but you have processed food, you will supply it in the market. I'll give an example. You must have heard of onion powder. Very much relevant for Indian economy. Onion powder. You must have heard of dry onion. What is the logic? In certain period, the production of onion is very high. We will take the surplus, convert that fresh onion into onion powder. And when the supply to the market is very low, we will supply these kind of commodities. Of course, right? Acceptability, usability has to be promoted. Right? So promote further food processing. Develop warehousing infrastructure. Why? Logic is simple here. In case of India, sometimes vegetables, sometimes pulses, etc., production happens because we do not have sufficient warehousing. Some of the food grains, some of the vegetables are lost, right? Because you don't have sufficient storage capacity. So develop more and more warehousing infrastructure. That will also control, right? Reduce the wastage of food. You can store more, supply more. Ensure there's a stability in supply. Promote domestic production, right? What do you mean by domestic production? Certain, let's say, food grains or certain types of crops, rather than importing all of it, why don't we promote the production of it? I'll give a simple example. Pulses, right? Best example for this is pulses. Or another example is oil seeds. And in fact, the government of India is promoting production of pulses. Government is promoting the production of oil seeds as well. And finally, promote technology. And in the current affairs situation, you should be able to explain this. I'll give a simple example. GM crop, right? The genetic crop or GM crop. Best example is mustard. We import a lot of it. So why don't we accept? Of course, every process has to be followed. I'm not saying skip the processes, right? Every process, every guideline has to be followed. Why don't we promote usage of a new type of technology, or let's say GM crops in the domestic market, so that the production increases, productivity increases, and automatically import dependence will come down. So these are some of the recommendations that you can provide in order to contain food inflation in the domestic market. Done? So this is in totality the discussion about food inflation. I've given a question on this. The inflation in recent times has been held hostage to prices of agriculture commodities. Elaborate and suggest reforms to address the issue in 15 marks, 250 words. In fact, the amount of discussion that I have done, right, in the last half an hour or 40 minutes, you can write an essay on it. I bet you can write an essay, but please understand, you don't have to write an essay. You just need to consolidate everything in 250 words. Right? So this is a discussion, and please be very careful. Some of you are asking, sir, how do we approach these kind of questions? And if you have seen the UPSC paper, these are exactly the kind of questions which is asked by UPSC. So how do you approach, or how do you prepare for these kind of questions? Read current affairs. Simple. Read current affairs. The more current affairs you read, you will realize, okay, this could be asked in the UPSC examination. Right? So I've taken the definition or the statement given by the expert, and the same definition I've given for you to write, elaborate in 250 words. Done? Let me go to the second article here. Post office services at doorsteps. This is from Kurukshetra, December edition. Let's have a discussion now. Certain important basic points. Important basic points. Department of Post comes under the Ministry of Communications. Remember this. Department of Post functions under the Ministry of Communications. That's the first point. Second point, in India, for easier administration, simple, for easier administration, what we have done is, we have divided the whole of India into 23 circles. Understand the next point here? For the whole of India, for administrative purposes, we have divided the whole of India into 23 parts or 23 circles. And generally you will see that these 23 circles are generally covering a state. But some of you will point out saying that, sir, but we have more than 23 states in India. I know that. You also know that. Generally, what has been done here is, some of the states, rather than covering only one state, only one jurisdiction like this, more and more regions are getting covered. And that is the precise reason, right? We have 23 postal circles, right, in the market or in the Indian market. Next, right, how the postal department, or let's say how the post offices are generally divided. What is the division? At the rural level, at the lowest level, we have branch offices. I hope you understand. Right, at the lowest level, at the rural level, we have branch offices. Above branch offices, we have sub post offices, and above sub post offices, we have head post offices. Right, this is generally the 3-tier system. I don't expect UPSC to ask this, but please understand, sir, why are you talking about then? If a question is asked, which of the three promotes the highest amount of financial inclusion, you will have to round the branch post offices. I hope you understand my statement. Right? If I ask you between, let's say, head post office, sub post office, and branch post office, which is the most important player, or which is the most important stage which can be used to promote financial inclusion, then it will be branch post offices. Right? That is the important reason why I'm giving you this idea. In fact, I'll just give you one point here. I'm pretty sure all of you heard of India Post Payment Bank. India Post Payment Bank, IPPB. Okay. India Post Payment Bank. Now, this India Post Payment Bank has been established in 2018 and it is operational in India. It's a payment bank which is providing services. But simple question to you people, do you think India Post Payment Bank will be has opened, or do you think it is rational to open the branches, that is a payment bank branches throughout India? Do you think it makes any sense for the IPPB to start opening new bank branches all throughout India? Of course, no. What they have done is they have basically entered into a tie-up with India Post, and they say that many of their services, the customers of IPPB, many of their services, they can avail at the branch post offices itself. They can go to the branch post offices and avail the services. Right? That is the reason the branch post offices are very, very important. Okay, so these are the operational unit levels. India Post has a network of 1.59 lakh post offices. And remember this, right? Most of these, that is more than 1.4 lakh post offices units are present in the rural areas, are present in the villages. Hence, it is very, very important. It is in fact given that 1.4 lakh post offices, which are at the rural level, will cover around 7 lakh villages. I repeat, 1.4 lakh post offices are covering 7 lakh villages in India, which basically translates to what? For every 5 villages, we have one post office, which basically can be leveraged, can be used to promote and to provide a lot of services to people living in rural areas. And the services which are provided by IP is nothing but India Post. It is not just associated with postal services. Historically, Indian Post is associated with providing, let's say, DAC, that is basically letters, right? Letters here, telegram there, etc., etc. But over a period of time, the kind of services that are provided by the India Post have got diversified. It is not just associated with postal services now. Can you get banking services at various branches of India Post? Answer is yes. Can you get, right, let's say, financial services at the post offices? Again, the answer is yes. Some of you will ask me, sir, how? How India Post will provide the financial services to me? Simple. You want to invest in, let's say, mutual funds. I'll give a very simple example. You want to invest in mutual funds, right? That is UTI mutual funds. There are certain post offices which are going to provide the services of buying mutual funds. You can walk into these post offices and you can purchase UTI mutual funds through the post offices. So it is providing financial market services to you. It is providing banking services to you. It is providing, let's say, access to your the benefits, that is subsidies, such as a direct benefit transfer, DBT. Under the direct benefit transfer, if you are receiving certain benefits, that is money from the government, many of the post offices are providing the services where you can withdraw the money from them, right? So direct benefit transfer services are being provided, insurance services are being provided. So that is the precise reason. Understand this. The India Post doesn't just provide postal services to you now. Gone are those days where they used to just provide postal services. That is basically communication mode. No, it is beyond that now, much, much beyond that. Now, in this regard, I'll just ask you a question, just think of it and answer. If I were to ask you, between the banking sector and the post offices, which one do you think should be used by the government to promote financial inclusion in the current situation? Which one will you choose? I'll repeat the question here again. Between the banks and the postal network, if you are the government, you want to promote financial inclusion, which network will you use? You should say postal network. Why? I'll give you the answer also. Right? Some of you will say, sir, why? We should use bank, no? Answer, my dear, is no. Why? You want to provide banking services or you want to provide financial inclusion. But the bank branches, most of them are concentrated in cities. These are present more and more in number in cities. But I am telling you, On an average, there is one post office available for every 5 villages. Don't you think you can leverage the postal network much better way compared to banking network? Right? That is the precise reason the postal network now can be leveraged. Right? In fact, if these kind of questions are asked in the mains examination, go with the postal network. Okay, now let's start. What is the evolution? How the postal network has changed over a period of time? Just certain information here. Government in the year 2012 launched an initiative in the postal network, that is IT modernization project. Of course, the government launched in 2012. In 2014, with the new government, the initiative was taken with much better participation by the postal network. Government pushed or gave more primacy or importance to the idea of IT modernization within the postal network. Now, some of you will ask, sir, why the idea of IT modernization was introduced in the postal network? Argument was that the post office network is spread widely throughout India. So why don't we start connecting all these post offices just like you have connected banks? Right? For example, you go to a bank, right? Imagine you have an account in SBI, but you open the account in Bangalore or let's say in Chennai or in New Delhi. But you're sitting in, let's say, Kolkata, West Bengal. Can you operate that account? Can you go to an SBI in Kolkata and operate the account? Answer is of course yes. Right? You can operate it. Why? Because the banking connectivity, we have a concept called as core banking solutions. All the banks are connected like this. Within the same bank, branches, can you operate? Can you operate your account? Answer is yes. Can you transfer funds from one bank to another bank? Again, the answer is yes. Why? There is a connection, there is a networking connection, core banking solutions are used. In the same way, in the postal network, we started introducing the IT modernization project, under which we introduced the concept of core banking solutions as well. That is, in simple terms, we connected all the postal offices. Simple, we connected all these postal offices. And what was the objective? To increase the reach of the services of the postal network, to better provide or to provide good quality customer services, growth with new line of business such as insurance, banking, mutual funds, right, etc. And if you start using information technology, IT simply stands for information technology. If you start using information technology, obviously the quality, the speed of the delivery of the services, automatically all of them will improve. So with this objective, right, what has been the result? One, all the 1.59 lakh post offices, POs are nothing but post offices, right, were network connected, and all the services provided were now made online. Can you use the services of post office using a website? Of course, yes, you can do that now. The customers of the Post Office Savings Bank, POSB, now can use NEFT, National Electronic Fund Transfer, RTGS, right, real-time gross settlement facilities in order to transfer funds from one region to another region. Right, I'll give a very simple example. Imagine I'm a person who lives in a certain northern state, but because of the work, right, I'm a migrant labor, I've moved into certain southern state. I'm earning, let's say, 500 rupees a day, 200 rupees a day, or 300 rupees a day. I want to transfer funds to my parents, my spouse, etc., who reside in another state. Can I use the postal network now? Of course, the answer is yes. Right? So some of you are asking NEFT and RTGS. Simple. These are the modes, different types of, let's say, tools which are available with the banks to transfer funds. Postmasters in the villages have been given a handheld device. I'll discuss on this. Post officers or postmasters in the villages now have been given certain handheld device. These handheld devices are called as a darpan. Right? This is how the darpan looks like. Just let me know, can you see the device or not? Is the picture visible to you people? right, these are the devices which are called as Darpan the devices. Important, please remember this. Why? Using this device, it is nothing but a micro ATM. Using these devices, multiple types of banking services can be availed. Multiple types. Right, sir? What do you mean by this? There is a system called as AAPS, Aadhaar Enabled Payment System. Okay, I repeat, AAPS, Aadhaar Enabled Payment System, and the banking, let's say the people, sorry, the post officers or postmen provide this Aadhaar Enabled Payment services to you. Sir, how is that possible? Right, simple. This is the device. You will go to the person who is holding this device. It could be either postman, it could be even, let's say, right, somebody else, a bank sati who is there in the villages. So you will go to these people who are holding the devices. You will provide, right, have a look at this. You will provide your Aadhaar number, which is of course connected with your bank. Now, right, then you will provide, or you will choose this kind of a service. Would you want to deposit money? You want to withdraw money? You want to change your mobile number? You want to, right, basically get the mini statement, etc., etc. What kind of services you want? Then provide your safety or security pin. And now, if you want to withdraw money, a receipt will be given, money will be given to you. You want to deposit money, a receipt is given, money will be collected. You want to get a receipt, or let's say mini statement will be drawn and given to you. So providing your Aadhaar number, or provide along with Aadhaar number, provide your thumbprint or the iris scanner, you will be able to get access to your bank account without having to go to the bank. I hope you understand. Without having to go to the bank, you will be able to get these banking services. So that is the beauty of this product, that is Darpan. So the postmasters in the villages have been provided with the Darpan device, using which banking services are being provided to the people living in the villages. Right, so these are certain very important outcomes because of the reforms that have been implemented by the government of India within the post offices. Apart from this, another very important reform in the post offices, or let's say postal department, India Post Payment Bank, IPPB, India Post Payment Bank. It has been set up in 2018. Initially, when it was launched, they stated that in all the 650 districts, remember this, in all the 650 districts, we will have a branch of India Post Payment Bank. Now, in all the 60 the districts in India, we have a branch of India Post Payment Bank. But what about the villages? What about the lower level below the district here? In that case, India Post Payment Bank says the post offices at the regional level, post offices at the village level will be, right, in a tie-up with the India Post Payment Bank and will be providing the similar services of a payment bank here. Right, that is one more important point regarding the postal network being used to provide banking services. It has provided 1.5 lakh smartphones to the postmasters as well as the postmen, has opened around 5.9 crore bank accounts. Aadhaar enabled payment system is the most popular service which is offered by India Post Payment Bank. And apart from this, within the IPPB, apart from providing banking services, other type of value-added services such as renewal of insurance, right, Aadhaar services such as changing your mobile number, digital life certificates, medical and life and accidental insurances, etc. These kind of services are also provided. Done, right? So these are certain very important, right, services, that is a financial as well as a non-financial services which are being provided by India Post Payment Bank, which is a part of Department of Communication or Ministry of, right, the Communications. Done. So this is one more very important reform. Please go through this. Can be asked by UPSC. Now next, another very important service provided by the post offices. Right, the post offices are also working as a common service centers. Common services center. Now, some of you will ask me, sir, what do you mean by Common Service Center? I'll start using the short form here, CSC, Common Service Center. Now, imagine you're living in, right, let's say a village, right? Or some of you will say, sir, no, I don't live in a village. Why are you targeting me? Imagine I'm living in a village. I want to go to only one point and get multiple services, such as I want to book a train ticket, I want to pay electricity bill, right? I want to pay water bill. I want to, right, get certain documents from the government, or I want to apply for something to the government. Now, generally what happens is, many of you will simply say, sir, let them use the internet. Many of you will say that. I know, sir, 5G network is there, Jio, it is so cheap, etc., etc. But you're talking about a villager. Just keep that in the mind. You're expecting everybody to be digitally literate, and that's not possible. You know the fact. Now, rather than going from one office to another office, what if there is only one, right, place where I'll get all of these services? I hope you understand, right? I will go to only one place, or one, let's say, one building. I can pay for utilities. I can apply for, let's say, government jobs. I am supposed to get certain documents from the government. I can apply for it, right? I want to book a train ticket, etc., etc., etc. In simple term, what if there is only one point where multiple services can be provided? That is exactly the Common Service Center. I hope you understand. That is exactly the Common Services Center. So in the Common Services Center, you'll be able to get multiple types of services. This is a single point access. What kind of services are provided generally in the Common Service Center? One type of a service is called as a G2C, and second one is called as a B2C. G2C stands for government to customer. B2C stands for business to customer. For example, Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. Right, here is a farmer. They want to pay insurance premium so that they can be covered under Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. They can pay and subscribe under the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana at a CSC. You can go to the bank also. Some of you will say, no, sir, I'll go to the bank. Yes, you can go to the bank. But what if the bank branch is, let's say, 10 kilometers away? Common Service Center is 3 kilometers away. Right? Same service. Right? You can also be covered under the PM Swanidhi Yojana. Get access to the benefits under that. You can make contribution to National Pension Scheme, that is a government to customer. And B2C, business to customer. Again, some of you are asking government to G2C, B2C. G2C is government to customer. B2C is business to customer. Right? So in case of B2C customer, you want to pay insurance premium. You can go to the service center and pay. Right? You want to make certain bill payments. You want to book a ticket in a bus, in a train, etc. You can do that as well. So what has happened is the Indian Post has signed an agreement, and as a result of this, now Indian Post, that is the post offices, will start providing G2C as well as B2C services to the people residing in the village. Okay. Next, passports. Right? If you want to get a passport, until very recently, you wanted to apply for a passport. You want to go and submit all the documents. You want to, right, get all the information, etc. Generally, the passport offices were set up in districts. I hope you understand. The passports offices were set up in districts. Now, what Government of India has done? The Ministry of External Affairs has signed an agreement with the Department of Post. As a result of this, multiple post offices are working as a Passport Seva Kendras, POPSK, Passport Seva Kendras. That is, for example, you want to submit the application for the passport. Should you go all the way to the district head office? You don't have to do that. There are certain identified post offices. You can go to that and submit the documentation. Right? So that is basically how the post offices are providing, right, the passport seva or passport related services. And right, so these are certain very important, let's say the measures, or let's say certain important, the steps which have been taken by the government as well as India Post or Postal Department, through which we are providing financial services, banking services, insurance services, thereby promoting financial inclusion even in the rural areas. But is there any other way forward? Should we do anything more here? Of course, yes. Have a look at this. Though government is promoting, right, the policy of having a physical bank branch, right, that is Government of India says for every village will ensure that within the distance or the radius of 5 kilometers there is a bank branch that is set up. That is the objective goal of the Government of India, right? Rather than that, the article argues that why don't we use the postal network? Already more than 1.4 lakh post offices are there in the villages. Why are we not using the postal network itself in order to provide all of these or improve upon providing these kind of services? And with the introduction of 5G network, with the introduction of the 5th generation telecom services, internet connection now, the postal services, apart from the postal services, providing many other services can be made much more easier, right? So that should be the way forward, right, for the Government of India. Done. So now the question related to this: technology bundled with a pan-India presence is a right recipe to provide financial inclusion. In the light of the above statement, discuss the importance of India Post in promoting financial inclusion. India Post, with its network, plays an important role in promoting financial inclusion apart from facilitating communications. Elaborate. Either question number 1 or question number 2, 15 marker question for 250 words. Right, so this is a practice question. Try to practice these kind of questions. You will be able to score very good with more and more practice in the UPSC mains. Done. So this is the second article that I wanted to cover. Third article, urban cooperative banks in crisis. This article appeared in EPW. Right, sir, both the questions same formats. My dear, both the questions are asking the same thing, but slightly wording is different. If UPSC, the one who is setting up the paper, wants to give a very easy question to you, the person might frame a question that is a second question. But if the person wants to make it difficult, right, if the person wants to play with your mind, they will try to use this kind of a statement. Technology bundled with the pan-India presence is a right recipe, etc., etc. Many of you will keep on thinking, right, what is it trying to ask in the first place? Second question and first question, they are both one and the same, right? They are asking the same thing, but the difference is second one is much straightforward compared to first question. If second question is there, you will have something to write. But if the first question is asked to you, many of you will keep on thinking, wondering as to what is actually the question asking. Right, so that is a precise reason, right? Please be very careful. Okay, and here is a hint. Any kind of question asked in UPSC, 20 questions, don't leave any question. When I say don't leave, try to write something on the question, right? Something in the sense, let's say, right, first question is asked, you're confused about it. It happens. There's a very funny statement. My brain is a wonderful thing. During the exam, there is nothing left in the right. There is nothing right in the left. Right? So basically it happens. But at that point of time, please do not skip any of the questions. Please don't skip any of the questions. They're asking a question, right, related to India Post. You may not know the exact answer, but at least try to write something related to India Post. Right? There's a department under the ministry of this. Connection is so much. Right, spread is so much, we can use it to provide banking services, etc. Something you will get out of it. Okay, done. Next one, urban cooperative banks in crisis. Right, one more article in the EPW. right? Basically, they discussed, right, has financial inclusion been affected after the collapse of the PMC Bank? Now, many of you will be wondering about what is this idea of a PMC. Please understand this. There is a bank by the name of PMC, Punjab Maharashtra Cooperative Bank. Is it okay? Punjab Maharashtra Cooperative Bank. Right, this Punjab Maharashtra Cooperative Bank was one of the biggest urban cooperative banks. Right, one of the biggest urban cooperative banks in India. But couple of years ago, the PMC Bank incurred losses. And after that, there has been a lot of discussion regarding the regulation over the cooperative banking in India. And surrounding that concept, right, regarding that concept only, now the question is, or the article discusses, why urban cooperative banks are very important in terms of promoting financial inclusion, and has anything happened because of the issue surrounding PMC regarding that. That is the scope of the article. Beyond that, a lot of data has been provided. You don't have to by heart the data, not necessary for UPSC. Sir, what is financial inclusion? My dear, financial inclusion simply means providing financial services in an affordable way for the people. Simple, right? Don't complicate all of this. What is the financial inclusion? Providing financial services in a cost-effective, in an affordable manner to the people. Sir, any example of financial inclusion? Best example, Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. Right, under Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, people were allowed to open bank accounts at 0 rupee balance. With 0 rupee balance, you don't have to keep any amount. Even if you don't keep any amount, no problem. You can have a 0 balance in the bank account. Some will ask, what is great about it then? Simple. If you have a bank account and the balance falls below 1,000 rupees, the bank will send a message to you. The bank says MAB, minimum account balance. MAB, minimum account balance. Right, your MAB is lower than 1,000, we will impose charges. And that's a beauty. Already your deposit is below 1,000, they will charge, let's say, 200 rupees. Further taking it below 1,000, and after 1 more month, again they will say your account is MAB. Right, so right, that is exactly what will happen in a banking sector. So you have a Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana account, you don't have to be worried. 0 rupee balance. Right? Don't you think you're providing a financial services to the people in a very, very cost-effective way, affordable way? Of course, yes. I'll give you another example. Pension schemes. Government of India has launched multiple types of pension yojanas. Best example, Atal Pension Yojana. Right? Insurance schemes. Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana, etc. Right? What is the objective of all of this? Ensuring that the services to people, right, services to people are provided, financial services, in a very, very cost-effective manner. Right? That is the basic idea for financial inclusion. Done? Okay. So, why urban cooperative banks are important? What is the role? And right, what is the issue? That is what is being covered in the article. We'll stick to that only. What is the role of urban cooperative banks in promoting financial inclusion? How UCBs, I'll start using the short form here. How UCBs right, will play an important role in promoting financial inclusion here. One, whenever you talk about cooperative banks, on one side, just imagine the picture here. On one side, you will keep cooperative banks, and in the other side, you will keep, let's say, foreign banks. You will keep other banks such as SBI, ICICI, right, etc. Now, simple question to you people. On the left side, right, this is my left hand. On the left side, you have put cooperative banks. On the right hand or right side, you have put all the other banks. Now, just think of it and answer, which one do you think has more connection at the rural level? which one do you think has more accessibility, local connectivity in India? All of you will agree cooperative banks. I hope you understand. All of you will agree it is a cooperative banks, right? So understand the logic here. Whenever you have a cooperative banking structure on one side and other banks on the other side, cooperative banks, people generally associate with them because you might be an employee in the cooperative bank, right? Within you, right, within your friends group, 10 people came together, you set up a cooperative bank. So there is a local flavor to it. The people generally associate themselves with the cooperative, and that is an advantage of a cooperative. And please understand this. Yes, this is one of the advantage. This is one of the reasons why people keep deposits even today in the cooperative banks. There is another very important reason, because the interest rate provided by the cooperative banks is higher. That is one more reason. But let's say a foreign bank will come to your place, and within the same locality 10 people have joined and they have started a cooperative bank. Will you have more faith on the cooperative bank or on the foreign bank? Obviously you will have more faith on the group of the people within the same locality who have set up the bank. That is the reason, right? There is this argument that cooperative banking structure has an advantage, will have an edge over other banking units, because there is a relatability factor. There is the faith factor related to cooperative banks. Second, UCBs have been not only meeting but also overcrossing or overshooting their PSL targets. What is this idea of a PSL? Priority sector lending. Priority sector lending. Now I'll give a very simple example here. Imagine a farmer is there. The farmer will go to a bank, let's say ICICI Bank, and the farmer will also go to a cooperative bank. Now if I number both of them, 1 and 2, simple question to you people, where do you think the farmer is more likely to get a loan? Just think of it. A farmer is going to let's say a bank such as Axis Bank, ICICI Bank, SBI, etc. And on the other hand, right, the farmer will go to a cooperative bank. Where do you think farmer has more, right, let's say chances of getting a loan? It will be cooperative bank. Right? Why? The basics of cooperatives. When you talk about cooperatives, generally a lot of these cooperatives will provide a lot of loans to farmers. They will provide a lot of loans to smaller businesses, smaller shops, etc. So when more and more loans are provided by them, automatically, can I say that they are promoting financial inclusion? Right? They are promoting financial inclusion because they are not only meeting the PSL targets, priority sector lending targets, they are overshooting the PSL targets. Right? That is the second factor. Third, whenever you talk about, let's say, cooperatives or cooperative bank, and within that specifically talk about, let's say, urban cooperative bank, generally more than 1/3 of the total deposits held in the cooperative banking structure are there with the urban cooperative banks. Is it okay? I'll repeat it again. Right? Whenever you talk about cooperative banks, and within the cooperative banks, specifically urban cooperative bank, right, generally around 1/3 of the deposits which are there in the cooperative banking structure are there with the urban cooperative banks itself. And that is the precise reason, which again, what is the argument here? Sir, what is the connection between financial inclusion and the deposits? If large chunk means a large part of the deposits are there with the cooperative banks, that is urban cooperative bank, does it not mean that more and more people have opened bank accounts with urban cooperative bank? And if they have opened more and more bank accounts, basically financial inclusion is taking place. Right? That is the third factor. Fourth factor, the urban cooperative banks are also, right, promoting opening of Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana accounts. They are also promoting the concept of no frills account. No frills basically means zero balance. Zero balance, absolutely zero balance. Zero balance account. Jan Dhan Yojana accounts, promoting the financial inclusion by appointing bank sathis or banking correspondents. right? So these are some of the ways through which the cooperative banks are promoting the concept of financial inclusion, right? Any issues here? Let me know. Any issues? This is how the cooperative banks, urban cooperative banks, right, are promoting the concept of financial inclusion. There is no boundary between Punjab and Maharashtra, then how can PMC bank be set up? Please understand this. Generally, the bank, or you talk about generally cooperatives, generally the cooperatives. The cooperatives can be established within the same state, single state, or cooperative can be set up across the states. That is, which operates only in one state or which operates in multiple states. PMC, Punjab Maharashtra Cooperative Bank, is an example of a multi-state cooperative. Multi-state cooperative, meaning what? It is not operating only in one state, it is operating in multiple states. Subsidy is a financial inclusion? No, subsidy is a financial assistance. Right? Basically, it is promoting financial assistance. What about rural cooperative bank? Please understand, cooperatives can be multiple types, urban as well as rural. I'm not saying that rural cooperatives are not promoting anything of this sort. Of course, yes. But please understand, look at the heading of the article. I hope you understand. Look at the heading of the article. Right? I can't start discussing the whole cooperative structure here. The article focuses only on urban cooperative banks. That is a precise reason I'm restricting my discussion only to urban cooperative banks. Do rural cooperative banks promote financial inclusion? Of course, yes. My answer will be, of course, yes. But because the article is discussing only regarding UC base, I'm covering UC base. That's the only reason. Sir, cost push inflation is mainly responsible for food inflation? Yes. In recent times, the issue regarding food inflation has been that the cost side factors or supply side factors have been contributing a lot, right? A lot to, right, the food inflation. What is the issue with RBI forecast, right? Now, argument is very simple here. RBI will give you a forecast. Forecast means estimates. Whenever RBI provides a forecast, it's an indicator to the market. For example, if you're an investor, if RBI says in the next 6 months, Indian economy is going to go to a recession, as an investor, will you increase your investment? Of course, no, you will hold on to your investment. If RBI says in the next 6 months, the inflation rate will be 8%, will you be happy with any amount of interest from your investment? No, you would want to earn higher and higher returns. So that is a precise reason. That's a precise reason why RBI forecast is very, very important. But because the food prices are very much fluctuating, RBI will now say in the next 6 months, inflation could be, let's say, 6%. But let's say, right, understand this. Let's say the war between Russia and Ukraine worsens. Both of them take up the war to the next level. Don't you think as a result of this, food supply in the international market will be affected? Fuel supply in the international market would be affected, etc., etc. And as a result of this, that could cause inflation in the domestic market, that is in India. So RBI said next 6 months inflation will be 6%. It ends up being 9%. So now tell me, will you give more value to the RBI forecast? You'll simply say no. RBI says 6, but it is 9. So no, it is not very valuable. Right? There is a gross miscalculation on the part of RBI. Error, right? Error percentage is very, very high, etc., etc. And RBI should not be doing that. That's a reason. Okay? Done. Let's start. Let's continue. What do you mean by SCB? SCB stands for Scheduled Commercial Banks. SCB stands for Scheduled Commercial Banks. Scheduled Commercial Banks are basically those banks which are registered under the Schedule 2 of RBI Act. I hope you understand. Under the RBI Act of 1934, if the banks are registered under the Schedule 2, these are called as Scheduled Commercial Banks. Okay, Let's continue now. Let's continue. What are the issues? What are the issues or concerns related to urban cooperative banks? One, majority of them, a large number of them are single branch banks. Understand this carefully. Right? Majority of them, a large number of urban cooperative banks, they have got only one branch. Right? They have only one branch. Now, what is the problem? If you have only one branch, you want to attract a lot of deposits, don't you think that will be a problem? Higher the spread, more deposits you can collect. Right? You can go to the market, issue shares and raise capital. But if you have only one branch, don't you think mobilization of the deposits will be limited? Don't you think the amount of capital that you can raise in the market will also be very, very difficult? So that is one issue. Second, labor force is not very, very professional. Right? What do you mean by this? If you compare between, let's say, all the other banks with, let's say, cooperative bank, generally you see that in case of all the other banks such as ICICI Bank, State Bank of India, the salary paid is higher. Professionals are hired through, let's say, an exam process, interview process, etc. Whereas the same thing may or may not be done by cooperative banks. Right? So that is another problem, lack of professional labor force. In fact, many of the surveys have found that in cooperative banks, there is a lot of family involvement. That is, let's say, certain powerful people in that region, they'll become part of the management, and along with them, their spouse will be part of it, their relatives, uncle, cousin, etc. They'll become part of the management of the cooperative bank. Thereby, there could be inefficiencies, there could be corruption, mismanagement in the cooperative banking sector. Right? So, lack of professional labor force. Next, non-performing assets, NPAs in the cooperative banks are on the rise. NPAs are actually increasing. Rise in the NPA in any part of the banking sector is always a problem, which means potential losses would be very high. More and more stress will be there on the financials of the bank. The bank might end up incurring a lot of losses. Lending capacity of the bank will be lower, etc., etc. Next, on large number of urban cooperative banks, RBI is imposing restriction. What do you mean by restriction here? RBI many of the times looking at the bank which is incurring loss says, I will not allow the depositors to withdraw money. I'll give you the example. PMC, Punjab Maharashtra Cooperative Bank. RBI did not allow the people to withdraw their deposits. Some of you will be worrying or wondering, sir, why is RBI doing that? It is my money, I should be allowed to withdraw it. No, my dear. If a bank is incurring a loss, all of us are depositors, all of us will run to the bank, start withdrawing the deposit. A bank which is already there in problem, don't you think if everybody withdraws money, will further fall into problem? Just think of it. Right? If a bank which is already there in the problem, incurring lot of losses, all of us will withdraw our money. Where is the money we left with the bank to give loan? Where is the money even to allow for the more and more withdrawals to happen? That is the precise reason. Right? The issue is here simple. If RBI says, I will not allow you to withdraw money, you are the customer of a cooperative bank. In the future, will you again keep deposits in a cooperative bank? Just think of it. Right? You are a customer of a cooperative bank now. RBI says, I will not allow you to withdraw money for the next 2 or 3 months till the bank will become stable. Now, once the deposits are allowed to be withdrawn, first thing you will do is run to the bank, withdraw all your deposit, never keep money in a cooperative bank again. So don't you think the reform that is implemented, step that is taken by RBI to address the issue of a cooperative bank is actually causing problem in a cooperative bank? Right? That is one more issue here. And finally, concentration of urban cooperative banks. Generally, whenever you talk about cooperatives, remember this particular point, most of these cooperatives are concentrated in some of the states such as Karnataka, Maharashtra, right, Gujarat, etc. Large number of cooperatives are concentrated, right, concentrated in these states. What about other states? So the reach of the cooperatives is very, very poor on a lower level in other states as well. Right, so these are some of the issues which are faced by urban cooperative banks. Okay, next, what is the reform? Right, of course, in the EPW article, they have not given the reform, but I'll tell you. We have discussed how UCB will play a role in promoting financial inclusion. We have discussed, right, what are the issues faced by the UCB. Then what is the solution? What is the solution? Some of you are saying, sir, but RBI regulates the UCB. Please understand this. More and more regulatory power was given to the Reserve Bank of India after Government of India amended Banking Regulation Act. Banking Regulation Act. BRA, Banking Regulation Act of 2020. That is Amendment Act. Banking Regulation Act of 1949 was amended by Government of India in 2020, and under this more and more powers were given to Reserve Bank of India. Right, that is one very important reform that you'll have to mention. Second very important point, please remember this. Reserve Bank of India says if an urban cooperative bank has a net worth of 100 crore to start with, and in the next 5 years doubles it to 200 crore rupees, I will allow the cooperative bank to become small finance bank. I will repeat the statement here. If a cooperative bank has a net worth of 100 crore rupees to start, and in the next 5 years it becomes 200 crore rupees, I will allow you to convert yourself into small finance bank. Now some of you will basically ask me, sir, why? What is the advantage? Simple. Look at the basics of the cooperatives. Whenever you talk about cooperative, there is always an issue of dual regulation. What is this dual regulation? You talk about a cooperative bank, the administrative side of the cooperative bank. The administrative side of the cooperative bank comes under the state government. Single state cooperative, state government. Multi-state cooperative, central government. But when you talk about the banking activities of the cooperative, it comes under Reserve Bank of India, RBI. Now, because there are two regulatory systems here, because there are two regulators, we'll call this as a dual regulation. Is it okay? We'll call this as a dual regulation. Don't you think that's a problem? I understand this. Don't you think that's a problem? There are two regulators. How do you address it? RBI says, convert yourself into small finance bank. Convert. But there is a condition. Your net worth is 100. You should be able to increase it to 200 crore. Only then I will allow you to convert into small finance bank. Now, simple question to you people. If an urban cooperative bank gets a license to become a small finance bank, do you think the state government will come into picture of regulation? Right? A small finance bank, do you think the state government can regulate a small finance bank? Absolutely no. A small finance bank will completely come under the regulation of, right, you guessed it right, Reserve Bank of India. So don't you think we'll be able to address the issue of dual regulation there? Right? That is the precise reason RBI has allowed this now. RBI says after 5 years, right, I'll give you a license, become SFB. Right? So these are some of the recommendations or the way forward that you are supposed to write. Done. Now, a descriptive question here. Discuss the role of UCBs in promoting financial inclusion in India. 15 marker in 250 words. Fourth article. Central government grants to local bodies. A critic of 15th Finance Commission, which has appeared again in the same magazine, EPW, Economic and Political Weekly. Now, before I discuss what is actually given in the article, here is right a glimpse of it, and here is one more report. I'll go to the 15th Finance Commission recommendation. Don't worry. Here is one more important report. Please remember this. As per World Bank report, the title of the report is Financing India's Infrastructure Needs, Constraints to Commercial Financing and Prospects for Policy Action. Very lengthy, I know, but follow this carefully. As per this World Bank report, by 2030, around 40% of India's population will be living in urban areas, that is in the cities. Some of you ask me, sir, 40% of the population will translate to how much? Simple, 600 million people. 600 million people, right? Understand this. 600 million people will live in cities by 2030. A simple question to you people, if 600 million people are living in cities, do you think, one, do you think the cities right now have sufficient infrastructure to provide all the requirements? And second, don't you think the urban centers, that is the municipalities, will have to spend a lot of money to develop infrastructure? Right? Already you know the answer. First question is what? Do you think, right, we have sufficient infrastructure in urban areas right now? Forget about 2030. Do we have sufficient infrastructure right now? Answer is simply no. Either you can take power infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, health infrastructure, right? Let's say living infrastructure, that is housing infrastructure. Do we have sufficient infrastructure? Answer is simply no. And if you look at it, urban cities, that is the municipalities, they are supposed to collect revenue, spend money and develop infrastructure. But what the data shows, the same report says that only around 15% of the total expenditure, I repeat, in urban cities, only around 15% of the total expenditure, right, or spent on the infrastructure development is municipalities' revenue. Right, sir, what do you mean by this? I'll take a very simple example here. Imagine here is a municipality. In this year, total amount of money spent on development of infrastructure is, let's say, 100 crore rupees. This 100 crore rupees, if you find out from where this 100 crore rupees has come, only around 15% of this, that is 15 crore rupees, is actually the money spent from its own revenue. The municipality has spent only 15 crore rupees from its own revenue. Now many of you ask, then sir, remaining money will come from where? Simple. Central government plus state government provides somewhere around 75 to 80% of it. Center plus state provides 75 to 80. And private sector usually spends around 5% of it. So understand the problem here. We know that the population living in the cities is going to balloon. And we want the municipalities or the cities to spend a lot of money and develop infrastructure. But the problem is the municipalities do not have sufficient amount of revenue sources to generate revenue and spend and develop this infrastructure. India needs to increase its annual investment in city infrastructure by more than 400%. Mind-boggling number. More than 400% increase we need to observe. Currently, annually we are spending around $10 billion. It should be increased to how much? $55 billion. So look at this. Annually, right now we are spending, right, somewhere around $10 billion. This should be increased to more than $55 billion, not 1 year, for successive years till 2030. Right, so you can imagine to what extent there is a requirement of development of infrastructure in the cities as such. Okay, so these are certain important points. Done. Now, we know that urban local bodies, ULBs, municipalities, require money to spend. That's the first point. Second, we have seen the World Bank report, which means, right, there is a requirement of spending. Third, out of the total money spent on the development of infrastructure, only 15% of it comes from their own revenues. Fourth point, a large chunk of it comes from the central government as well as the state government. Now, because we are saying central government, Through what measure the central government will provide the funds to the local bodies? That is the Finance Commission. Simple. That is through Finance Commission. Right now, we are in the process of implementing the recommendations of 15th Finance Commission. The time period is simply the 21 to 26. That is 21-22 financial year till 25-26 financial year. For 5-year duration, we are implementing the Finance Commission recommendation. So out of this Finance Commission recommendations for the states, for healthcare, etc., different types of recommendations are there. How much recommendation of grants has been done by the 15th FC to the local bodies? To the local bodies. So remember this, the total amount recommended for a duration of 5 years, the total amount recommended by the 15th FC, is basically 4.4 lakh crore rupees. It is 4.4 trillion rupees or 4.4 lakh crore rupees. And this 4.4 lakh crore rupees is further divided into two components. One is rural local bodies and the second one is urban local bodies. Out of this, around 35% comes at somewhere around 1.4 trillion rupees. 1.4 trillion rupees will be given to RLBs, and remaining $3+ trillion will be given to, 3 trillion rupees, not dollars, will be given to urban local bodies. Now, if you compare it to the previous Finance Commission, that is the 14th Finance Commission, not only the allocation has increased, the allocation to the rural local bodies also has been increased. Please remember this, remember it. Generally, UPSC doesn't ask it, but because it has appeared in the current affairs, suddenly they can pick up the question. So as a percentage, how much money is granted, how much grants are given to the rural local bodies has increased from 30% to 35% from 14th to 15th Finance Commission. Now, the same points given here. 15th Finance Commission has recommended grants to local bodies. How much? 4.4 lakh crore rupees. Now understand the difficulty. Come to the core point of discussion here. Central theme of the discussion. These 4.4 lakh crore rupees will not simply be given to the local bodies. Meaning what? Imagine here is a municipality. Out of this 4.4 lakh crore rupees, imagine, I'll just take a simple number so that you understand. Imagine 1 lakh rupees or 1 lakh crore rupees is supposed to be given to this municipality. What the Finance Commission says is, will not simply give it. Will not simply ask you to take 1 lakh crore rupees and spend the money. Absolutely no. Entry level eligibility conditions have been imposed. Understand this point carefully. Entry level eligibility conditions have been imposed. What do you mean by this? And this is important. Why? So far, there have been 6 Finance Commissions. 6 Finance Commission, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, as well as the 10th. So starting from 10th, there have been 6 Finance Commissions which have recommended grants to local bodies. But it is the 15th Finance Commission which says, you want to get grants, become eligible for the grants. I hope you understand this. You want to get grants, become eligible for the grant first. And the 15th Finance Commission says, to become eligible for the grants, certain conditions have been prescribed. If you satisfy all of these eligible criteria, only then you will be considered for giving grants. I hope you understand this. Any issue, let me know. The 15th Finance Commission has basically stated, you want to get grants, become eligible for it. What do you mean by this? Basically, you will have to set up a Finance Commission. Set up a Finance Commission. You don't set up a Finance Commission by 24 and 25, I will not give you grants. For example, I'll give a very simple example so that you understand this. You want to write UPSC. Of course, you will have to write UPSC, clear prelims, pass mains, and come out with the flying colors in the interview. That's a process, But if you want to become eligible to write UPSC, you should have a degree. I hope you understand this. To become eligible to write UPSC, you will have to have a degree first. If you don't have degree, you are not even eligible to write the exam. So apply the same logic for the local governments. A municipality wants to get the grants. The Finance Commission says, implement all of these conditions. Then you become eligible to get the grants. Right? So have a look at this. The 15th Finance Commission has imposed eligibility criteria such as setting up of a state finance commission. The state government must set up a state finance commission, submit the report, right, to the state legislature by 24-25. If not, grants will not be given. Right? We are not going to give grants to the local bodies there. Online availability of audited annual accounts or financials of the urban local bodies. Municipalities should get their audited accounts. Audit means check. Their accounts should be checked by an agency, give a certificate, right? Those audited financials must be uploaded into a website. Increase in the property tax collection in tandem with the gross state domestic growth, right? What do you mean by this? The state achieves, let's say, 5% growth rate in the state domestic product. That is, nationally we say GDP. For a state, we'll call this as a gross state domestic product. So the amount of the property taxes that you are collecting, the rise or the percentage change should be, right, moving in the same way as the GDP of the state is moving. The GDP moves by 5%, property taxes should also move by 5%, right? So that is one more conditionality. So these are some of the types of eligibility criteria which has been proposed by the 15th Finance Commission, right, which the article says is wrong. Right? The reason why has it been provided? I'll tell you the reason why the 15th FC has given such conditions. Reasons are, generally the state governments do not set up finance commissions. Simple. I'll show you the right data here. Have a look at this. I'll come back to this. Don't worry. Have a look at the argument here. As per Article 243I, remember this, right? As per Article 243I, state governments are supposed to set up a finance commission once every 5 years. They are supposed to set up the finance commission once every 5 years so that the recommendations can be taken and implemented at the state level. But state governments don't do it. Right? Why? The logic which has been provided is, many of the state governments use earlier recommendations of the Finance Commission, keep on extending the same recommendations. And the laws regarding the local bodies have been made in such a way that more and more powers have been given to the state, lesser powers or negligible powers have been given to local bodies. Now the state governments are worried, if I set up a state finance commission, they give recommendations to give more, let's say, revenue to the local bodies, I will be forced to follow them because I cannot give the reason why I'm not following. I'll have to either reason with them or I'll have to follow them. Right? So because of many of these reasons, right, basically the states, most of them, right, even the 15th Finance Commission says, most of the states in India either have set up 2 finance commissions, 3 finance commissions, 4 finance commissions, etc. So the states are lagging behind in setting up of right, the finance commission. That's the reason Finance Commission says that is one of the conditions. Right? Follow this, implement it, then I will consider you to provide grants. And the second issue regarding these conditionalities, second point is, whenever such conditionalities are imposed, I'll take up one example here. The property taxes collected should be moving in the same direction, moving in the same percentage compared to the GDP of the state. But the problem regarding such conditionalities is that in the states, whenever the local bodies want to change the property taxes, they are supposed to take the permission of the state government. I hope you understand this. When they want to change the taxes, they are supposed to take the permission of the state government. State governments generally don't approve it. As a result of this, just observe this. Please don't buy at anything from the table. I hope you understand. Do not by heart anything from this table, not at all important, just to give you the idea. And what has been observed is very simple. You generally observe that property taxes grow at a very, very slow pace, very, very slow pace compared to the GDP of the states. Which means if these are implemented, conditions are imposed like this, many of the states will not become even eligible to get the grants for the local bodies. Right, that is a concern which has been raised in the article regarding the 15th Finance Commission grants to local bodies. Done? Right, so these are certain important points. Please make a note of this, can be asked. So what is the way forward here? One, first and foremost, such conditionality should not be imposed. I hope you understand my statement. Such conditions should not be imposed on the state or on the local bodies. Why? Imagine you are a state government, you want to implement some other reform that is relevant for you, that is relevant for the economy or the people in the state. The Finance Commission says you have to implement some other reform. You want to become eligible, implement something else. Don't you think the Finance Commission is dictating terms to you? You as a state government will know what is best suited for you. You will know what is the important reform for you. But the Finance Commission is basically tying your hands, controlling how you are supposed to implement the reform. That is not the objective of setting up of a Finance Commission. Second is, whenever such conditions are imposed, right, the state government loses freedom. Right, they would want to use the money, right, which the grants are given, or let's say any funds are given, they would want to use it for any other purpose. But the Finance Commission says nothing doing, use it only for this purpose. So that freedom, that choice is lost. Right, that is basically one of the issues. So what is the way forward? Right, simple. Increase the allocation of untied or unconditional funds. That is, whenever such funds are issued, do not attach conditions to these grants or these funds, which will restrict, which will basically dictate how the state governments are supposed to do. That is not the prerogative of the Finance Commission. Okay, right, so these are certain important points here. A descriptive question again on this. Though 15th Finance Commission recommends a higher allocation to ULBs, that is, if you compare it to earlier Finance Commission, it has been higher. However, the conditions attached to the allocation are counterproductive. Elaborate in 250 words. Okay, so this is a descriptive question. Please go through this. And finally, but sir, criteria seems to be logical. Again, I'm saying there are always the pros as well as cons. Right, I've given a question basically targeting the cons there. Right, understand this. There are always arguments in favor of it. There are also arguments against it. I've given you both the sides. Right, you decide, right, on which side you want to answer or which angle you want to take to answer. How these are counterproductive. Right, again, that's what I discussed so far. If you ask the state government to do this only, don't you think you're dictating terms to the state government? Do you think that is the objective of setting up of Finance Commission? Right, so do you think that is how the Finance Commission is supposed to operate? That is not how they are supposed to operate. Okay, that is the reason I said it might become counterproductive. Okay, next, e-governance in tourism. Right, how governance reforms or measures of Government of India can be used to promote tourism. Simple idea. First and foremost, certain basic points regarding tourism. First point, the nodal ministry to promote tourism in India is Ministry of Tourism. There is Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Tourism, etc., etc. Now, why tourism is very important for a country such as India? Why tourism is very important? One, tourism, right, basically will promote a lot of investment. Let me know if you disagree with me. Tourism will promote a lot of investment. Sir, in what way? Let's say in terms of transportation, in terms of hospitality sector, right, in terms of construction of roads, right, etc., etc., etc. So a lot of investment is promoted by promoting tourism. Second, it will create lot of employment. It will create lot of employment. Lot of employment generation takes place. Third, it will fetch good amount of foreign earnings. Foreign earnings will be promoted. That is, let's say a foreigner comes to India, simply means dollars are flowing into India. We are promoting service exports, dollars are flowing into India. Foreign currencies will flow into India. And it will promote consumption. It will promote consumption, right, or demand for goods and services in the domestic market. For example, you go to, let's say, a particular state, right, let's say such as Jammu and Kashmir. Of course, it's not a state, don't fight with me over that, right? You will go to, let's say, Kanyakumari, you will go to Rajasthan, you will go to, let's say, Punjab. Either a foreigner or you as a domestic tourist, you will go, which means you are going to consume a lot of goods and services. The demand for that automatically will go up. And finally, it will contribute to GDP, the growth in the GDP, right, gross domestic product, right? So these are some of the reasons why tourism is very, very important. How tourism and investment is related? My dear, if tourism is promoted, government will construct a road. Lot of hotels will open up, right? Lot of people will purchase cars and start operating those as taxis. Don't you think investment has been promoted in those regions? Of course, yes. At certain data here, foreign tourist arrivals in terms of millions in India, and how much foreign exchange earnings have flown into India. Just factual information. Please do not by heart, because by the time you write the exam, data will change. Data automatically will be much different compared to this. Okay. Now, what reforms have been undertaken by the government? And what reforms? E-tourist visa has been launched. Adopt Heritage project has been launched. Incredible India app and website is there. 24/7 toll-free multilingual tourist helpline is there. Nidhi, it's an initiative, I'll come to that. Right, M visa, medical visa is proposed and has been implemented. Lighthouse tourism is the new initiative which has been taken by the government. Let's pick up at each one of these initiatives. Certain information, we will have a look at it. First one, e-tourist visa. And what is the concept of e-tourist visa? The idea of an e-tourist visa was launched by the government in 2014. The argument is very simple here. Earlier, you wanted to visit India. In order to get visa, there was a very lengthy process, right? Number of days that it would take to get a visa was very long. You are supposed to go to certain officers, embassies, submit documentation, etc., etc., etc. But Government of India now says, we'll change the process. We'll make it easier for the people who will come to India for business purposes, for leisure purposes, etc. We'll make it very easier for them to get visas. How? Right? In 4 days, that is at least within 4 days of your travel, you will have to log on to a website, provide all the details and pay whatever fees is required to get the visa. And documentation has to be provided again online. Within these particular number of days, or let's say within 72 hours or 3 days, the government, that is the Ministry of External Affairs, will ensure that you will be getting the required visa. Right now, the process of getting visas has become much easier. Right, but please understand, to begin with, 43 countries, that is the tourists from 43 countries were covered under this. Now this has been extended to cover 171 countries. And in the year 2020, 8.3 million people, 8.3 million foreign tourists actually arrived in India on e-tourist visa, which is basically one of the visas that the Government of India is providing now to promote tourism. Done. So this is one very important reform. Second one is adopt a heritage project. And what is the idea for adopt a heritage project? there are, let's say, monuments, historically important monuments. Now, all of you know that if you want to maintain a monument, you will have to incur a lot of expenditure, right? For example, certain, let's say, maintenance or cleanly, right, services has to be provided, right? A certain infrastructure, let's say, restrooms have to be provided, right? Waste bins have to be installed. So a lot of money needs to be spent in order to develop and maintain a project like this, tourism project. Now, Government of India, under the concept of Adopt a Heritage Project, which was launched in 2017, says a public sector utility, that is a government-owned company or a private sector company, etc., can adopt a heritage project. In simple terms, they will adopt a project, and whatever money is required to develop and maintain the project, it will be provided by the private sector company or a businessman, high net worth individual, or a public sector company. This concept is called as Adopt a Heritage Project. Now, who are the important stakeholders, right? Who are participating in this initiative? Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Tourism, ASI, that is Archaeological Survey of India, the state government, union territories, etc. Whoever is the stakeholder, relevant stakeholder, all of them are participant in this initiative of the government. Okay, so this is one more very important initiative, that is Adopt Heritage Project. Third one, Incredible India app and website. Now, although the name is Incredible India, please understand this. Again, just a joke. Just to check whether this right, what kind of services are provided in the app, etc. Website functions very well. No issues with the website. Basically, it's one, a website. Second one, it's an app. I used a website. Lot of information you will be able to gather using the website. For example, what kind of, right, let's say, areas are there which have tourist attraction in, let's say, Rajasthan, in Punjab, in Karnataka, in Tamil Nadu, in Madhya Pradesh, right, in Uttar Pradesh, etc. You will get a lot of information, right? Are there any hotels which are operated by the state government? You can come to know. You can even have a 360-degree view of these monuments using, right, the website. Now, just to check, I downloaded the app. Incredible India app has been launched many years ago. I downloaded and I tried to open the app. I kept on getting the message, data server issue. Right, the server kept on crashing. Again, don't worry about it. You don't have to fix as a UPSC aspirant. But argument is simple here. Government, by launching the app as well as right, by launching the website, is promoting, right, a lot of products or a lot of information is being provided for the tourist, right, such as hotel services, such as transportation services. All the information is available in this Incredible India website as well as app. Done. Next one is 24/7 toll-free multilingual tourist helpline. That is, imagine you're a domestic tourist, you want to visit a particular place, you want to get the information regarding the place, you want to plan for that. There is a helpline that has been launched by the government with this number, wherein you can call and get information, right? Either to plan or during the same travel itself, you can get a lot of information regarding these sites, right, to help your tour to go smoothly. This initiative basically is a 24/7 toll-free multilingual tourist helpline. So in this, you can get information in domestic languages, that is Hindi, English. International languages are also provided, such as German, etc. Right, so it's a toll-free multilingual tourist helpline wherein you can get assistance in 12 international languages apart from Hindi as well as English. Right, so these are some of the important reforms. Right, again, one more is there. Lighthouse tourism, very recently proposed. In 2021, the Prime Minister of India stated that we should promote the idea of a lighthouse tourism. What is this idea of a lighthouse tourism? You must have seen lighthouses, that is in the seas or nearby the seas, to provide direction, right? To provide certain indication, lighthouses are installed. So Prime Minister said these lighthouses which are there, right, in the coastal regions of India, will choose these lighthouses, and surrounding the lighthouses, we will develop a lot of infrastructure to promote tourism. And because a lighthouse is a reference point for me, we'll call this as a lighthouse tourism. Right, so far, more than 70 lighthouses have been identified to be developed under this initiative. And what are we going to develop surrounding the lighthouses? We are going to develop play areas. We are going to develop theaters. We are going to develop cafeterias, cottages, museums, etc. As per the size, as per the requirement, all this infrastructure will be developed surrounding the lighthouses, so that, right, these will be developed as a tourist spot or tourist destinations. Right, so this is referred to as lighthouse tourism. And two more short reforms. One is NIDHI. NIDHI basically stands for National Integrated Database of Hospitality Industry. It's basically a database. For example, you must have wondered sometimes. You log on to, let's say, certain websites, booking.com, or let's say makemytrip.com, etc. They seem to have all the information in the sense which city is suitable, how many hotels are there, how many tour operators are there, what kind of taxi is available, etc., etc., etc. They will have all the information, right, to basically for you to pack a bag and go now. Right? Ever wondered how do they collect the information? Simple. There is a database. Right? The database is named as a NIDHI, National Integrated Database of Hospitality Industry. Right? For example, right, you go to, let's say, Make My Trip website, and you try to book a flight to a particular place. And if you book a flight, suddenly the website says this hotel is very good in the place. Would you want to book the room in the hotel? You basically, right, get down from the plane, or let's say from the bus. Should I, right, go ahead and book a cab for you to pick up, etc., etc., like this? How is that possible? Because there is a centralized database that is available today, and that is called as NIDHI. Under this database, service providers list is maintained. That is, the database of all the kinds of service providers is available, such as travel agents, tour operators, right, bed and breakfast facilities, right, etc., etc., etc. And finally, one more reform, M-Visa, that is medical visa. Right, government, in order to promote medical tourism, and basically is providing the medical visas for the people, foreign nationals, to come to India, get the treatment done and go back. And for that facility to be promoted, government is introducing or has introduced the concept of medical visa. So these are certain very important reforms that have been undertaken by the government in the last couple of years, right, through the digital initiatives or e-governance initiatives to promote tourism in the domestic market. So finally, a question, descriptive question related to tourism here. Discuss the importance of tourism sector to India and the reforms implemented by the government to promote it. Very, very simple, straightforward question. Elaborate in 250 words. Right, so these are the 5 articles that I wanted to cover for today's webinar, and the questions related to all the 5 articles I've given. But if you ask me, sir, which one is the most important, or let's say out of all of these, which one do you think, right, is very, very important? Again, I'm not saying remaining are not important. The most important, I will go with the first one. Food inflation. I will go with the first one, the idea of a food inflation. Please be very, very careful. Done? So before I wind up, let me take up certain questions here. Online availability of audited accounts. Here, which account is sir talking about? I'm talking about financial statements, that is expenditure income statement of the local bodies. how inclusive or how increase in property tax leads to decrease in fund from the central government. I'm not saying central government funds will come down. I'm basically saying rather than being dependent on the center and state government to provide funding, the local bodies more and more should be generating their own revenues to develop the infrastructure. That is the whole idea. Did the state government reacted regarding the finance commission? Right, as of now many state governments have opposed it. In fact, one of the minister under the central government has written the government letter asking them not to follow these right conditions in providing the grants. Tourism for Indians outside India is good or bad for India? It all depends. In what context are you talking about it? Right? Imagine you're earning a lot of money, GDP is increasing, there is no slowdown issue, there is no issue with the forex reserves, then go for tourism either in India or outside India, it doesn't matter. Sir, can be more than one cooperative bank in the same state? Of course, yes. There can be more than one cooperative bank in the single state. It's possible. Means devolution to states has been decreased by 100 basis points from 14th Finance Commission, and at the same time contribution to local bodies has been increased. If you talk about percentages, yes. In fact, the 15th Finance Commission doesn't say that we have reduced the devolution, they say that we have adjusted the devolution. I'll tell you the reason. The last point for the day. The 15th Finance Commission doesn't say we are going to reduce. They are saying we are going to readjust the devolution. Why? When 14th Finance Commission was giving a recommendation, Jammu and Kashmir was the state. When 15th Finance Commission is giving a recommendation from 21 to 26, J&K is not a state, so obviously number of states have come down. When there are union territories, the expenses of union territories go to the central government. That is, the central government is responsible there. That's a precise reason why the 15th Finance Commission says we are going to adjust the vertical devolution from 42 to 41%. Done? Right, so that's it from my side then. Right, so these are the 5 very important articles as well as the discussion and questions related to these articles. Please do attend the PTS papers as well as the webinars that keep on happening on current affairs, as well as the mains paper discussion on Tuesdays as well as Thursdays respectively. But do not forget to join even on Wednesday when the PTS paper is discussed by the respective faculties. Right, thank you from my side. Have a great day. Right, take care, study well. Bye.